Good morning, good day, good evening. I am as always your host, Brody Robertson, and today we are back for episode 97 of Tech Over Tea. Now, I spent like an extra half an hour than I normally would finding topics for the podcast, but then I realized, wait, I have too many topics already. Why am I doing this? Because CES happened, so obviously there's a lot of boring shit that came from CES. We're not going to go over like everything, but there are some like really weird things that came out of it that I really do want to talk about. I think we can start on, we'll start on the least weird and we'll get weirder as we go. So the least weird, actually, no, this isn't even the least weird, but this is the least weird. So the least weird is that Sony has a new version of the PlayStation VR. Now, Sony, if you have realized, has given up on naming their video game-related devices, like 20 years ago? They never bothered naming them. It's like PlayStation 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, they've kept that going with the PlayStation VR 2. They've just called it PlayStation VR 2. The logo is just like okay, let me just explain this to you, right? Someone at Sony or someone like contracted by Sony got paid to design this logo. Now, for anyone just listening to the podcast right now, the logo is the PlayStation logo, that one that already exists, they're using for everything else, and then VR2 in Times New Roman. Like, there's no interesting logo, there's nothing fancy here, it's just PlayStation VR2, and the VR2 is in Times New Roman. I want to know how much this person got paid to make this logo. I've never used the original PlayStation VR. This could be, could be great. I don't know. I think the last time I used VR was it was a Vive 2 years ago. I believe it was the latest version of the Vive that was out at the time. So, I still have a relatively modern understanding of what VR is like. But, I don't know, this could be great. It could be the greatest bit of VR ever created. Surely it's better than the previous version because now you have, more graphics hardware to actually drive graphics. Yeah, that's what graphics hardware does. It looks like it's got the, VR controls like you'd sort of expect, but I just want to talk about just how little effort Sony actually puts into naming stuff. And you know what? It's kind of like a breath of fresh air. Like Microsoft, Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox One Series X. Like, this makes no sense. Get into monitor naming. It's like, don't even bother working it out, because anything after, the number, which is the monitor size, means absolutely nothing. I don't know what monitors I have. All I know is they have a 27 in their name because they're 27-inch. And it's a fucking mess, basically. So, even though I'm gonna laugh about the fact that someone was probably paid at least like $15,000 or $20,000 to actually design this logo, it is nice that Sony actually cares about making their products easy to find. Honestly, they probably just didn't want to pay, after making that logo, they probably just didn't want to pay anyone to actually come up with an exciting name. So, fuck it. Take the previous name, stick a number on it. So, hey, if you're going to buy a PlayStation VR 2, well, now you know what it's called. Now, the next bit of news we have, next bit of CES stuff, that this one... Okay, PlayStation VR 2? Sure, cool. We haven't had a new PlayStation VR in a while. This one... I don't know why anyone would even report MSRP for a new graphics card. So, AMD's new 199 Radeon RX 6500 XT offers a cheaper RDNA 2 entry ramp. Now, let's just go by how much a 6600 currently is. And we'll go between the different tiers to try to work out what the price actually would be in Australia. So, a 6600 currently is $700 in Australia. So, a 6600 XT, 800. Okay, then the next one after that is the 6800. No, sorry, 6700 XT. That goes up to 1500. So I could imagine if there was a 6700, it would probably be about $1,000 Australian. I would guess, judging by like the difference between value tiers. So while there is this $200 MSRP in the US, which would normally mean around like 350, 400 in Australia. I would say, judging by existing cards that are on the market right now, when it's in stock, it'll probably be in the range of maybe $600 or $700 in Australia. What it works out to be in the US, I don't know. That's going to be up to your guys' market. Actually, let's go and check Newegg right now. I actually don't know what US prices even look like. Newegg America, yep. RX 6600. So that one is sorry, the 6600 XT. I was gonna say, there's no way. Base 6600. Wait, what the fuck? Why is it 70? Okay, no, that's a higher end card. Okay, this one right here. So 619, 624, 600. Okay, so it seems like it's about 600 in the US market. So I would say it's probably fair to assume that the 6500 XT, don't worry about MSRP, it's nonsense at this point. I would say 400 or 450 is my guess. I might be completely off. Maybe it actually does sit closer to its MSRP at like 300, but judging by the existing market, I wouldn't be holding my breath for anything lower than 400, which for some people might be, might be good. Maybe 400 for a 6500 XT is what you want. Let's also estimate performance. Obviously, card's not out yet, but we can see where the 6600 sits. So theoretically, if we know the difference between each card, we can sort of estimate where this card's actually going to sit through very, very unscientific methods. So this is on the Blender render. Let's go game stuff. So Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I remember when this game was like really hard to drive. Nowadays, like a fucking entry card can do it. So 6600 is 108 frames. XT is 130. 6700 XT is 150. So I would say from not even the fucking specs are probably listed on this page, but from not looking at the specs whatsoever and just completely winging the numbers, I would say if it's around 95 FPS in The Witcher 3, I think that'd be about fair. So that would put it, compared to my card, the RX 570 here. So it would still be almost double the performance of my current card. I don't want to go 500 class though. I've already said that I'm waiting till the 7000 series now, and I'll just pay whatever the 7000 series sits at and go for like probably 600 class, I would say. Probably 600 class, which would put it, I don't know, we'll work that out when the cards actually hit the market. Hopefully around, like, I'd be happy if it was somewhere around like the 3060 Ti, to be completely honest. But yeah, so that card's not going to be available, but it's on the market. It's going to exist, but it's not going to be available. Actually, buying GPUs now has actually gotten considerably easier. I don't know if it's just because every single mining setup already has all the cards they want to own, or if they're all holding out for the next generation of cards, or what it is, but buying a GPU as of late has been, like, everything's in stock. Like, it obviously is an exception to, like, one card, but, like, most cards you want to buy, at least in the Australian market, at this stage, okay, maybe the 700 not. But like still in stock. Like sure, some of them are sold out, but this is fairly normal. You can buy a card right now. Like that's the difference. You can buy a card even if the card price is just absolutely fucking ludicrous. $2,000. Oh, okay, no, that's a liquid cooled card. Even so, that card shouldn't be any more than like 1,500 in the Australian market. But yeah, you know, graphics cards are gonna come out even if no one's gonna want to buy them. I want to see what the comments are saying, actually. So Scalps will be moving these for around 400 then? Yeah, this guy's got the numbers right. Looks like $100 card. What? Looks like $100 card? When have you paid $100 for a 50 class? Based on what year GPU prices were you're frozen in your mind. Times have changed. Old RTX 2600s from a few years ago now go for 700. Fucking hell. This GPU is an absolute joke. Never thought AMD could surpass the absurd 5500 XT, but they outdid themselves. What a joke the $200, $300 GPU market continues to be, regardless of the current shortages in demand. This inexcusable and a joke of a product, considering its specs and MSRP. MSRP doesn't matter. Even AMD is very aware of their own stupidity, considering they even had the audacity to compare with a 1650 and RX 570. I don't think it's going to be that bad. As I said, I think it's going to hit around... It's probably going to be somewhere around the 95 FPS mark in Witcher 3, so that would put it below a RTX 2060. Obviously, you know, not the most performant card, but it's also a 50 class card, so you don't really expect high performance. You expect a card that literally functions. Let's go Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So judging by my imaginary numbers I'm making up on the spot right now, yeah, so it should, I would say it sits around, if we're going below the 2060, just around the maybe 45? Oh, actually, surely it'd be above a RX 590, so probably around like... Actually, wait, that's the 5500 XT. Surely it has to be above that. Maybe it'd be a bit higher then. Maybe it'd be a bit closer to, like, the RTX 2070. I don't know. Obviously, we're going to have to wait till actual benchmarks show up. Actual benchmarks show up to actually know what the performance is going to be like. I'm sure that LTT is going to be doing a video on it if they actually get a... if they actually get a card. Unlike when Nvidia released a card a while back and reviewers didn't get seeded any samples. Why is AMD releasing a new card with 4GB of VRAM in 2022? The new budget Nvidia card at $249 has 8GB of VRAM. This card not having at least 6GB is a joke. As someone using a 4GB 1650, the one thing my gaming could benefit from is more VRAM. I don't think you need more VRAM. There's no way you're playing games above 1080p. Maybe for like shader effects that are becoming more common because more cards are having more VRAM, but even so, I don't think like needing 8GB in a entry class card really makes any sense. But this card is a thing. Maybe, possibly, probably not. Anyway, another thing that came out of CES. Now we're getting into the weird parts. So this is the new Dell Xps 13. Why are we not swapping? Oh, I'm pressing the wrong button. The new Dell XPS 13 that has a touch bar. Now, when it says touch bar, it does not mean touch bar in the same way as, the Macs, where they have this, basically they have a screen. What it actually means is something way worse and actually really shit. So, basically, they replaced the function keys with these touch buttons. So, yeah, totally not a touch bar, guys. No, it's totally not a touch bar. It's a bunch of touch buttons. This is shit. Maybe it'd be fine. Look, maybe it's going to be fine when it actually comes out. And hopefully, hopefully this is a device that actually reports stuff properly. Like, I hope that this is just being reported as individual keys on a keyboard. Because if that's being reported as some weird if it needs some weird driver to actually function, you're not using this device on Linux because you will not have function keys. Oh, you also don't have function keys anyway because they replaced the function keys with the buttons. So hopefully those report as like F1 through 12, but you won't know which one you're actually pressing without, counting along. So that's fun. Honestly, I would have preferred an actual touch bar, to be completely honest. I wonder what the travel on those keys are actually is. Because the travel looks really short. So it already looks like something I don't want anything to do with in my life. Also, what the hell's the trackpad? Another thing you'll probably notice is there's no dedicated trackpad beneath the keyboard. Dell has outfitted the XPS 13 what it calls Haptic Force Pad. Wait, this one doesn't physically depress when you click it. It just reproduces the sensation of depressing. Reproduces the sensation of depressing. Okay, there's a way to phrase that. Imagine there might be a learning curve. So but there's no markers on where it is either. So is the entire thing a trackpad? Surely not. There's no mention of it here. I can't imagine the entire thing as a trackpad. That would be I could forgive the weird function key replacement if this entire thing was a trackpad. I really doubt that it is, though. I presume there's either it's the pictures that aren't showing any delineation, like, at all. If there's no marker whatsoever, that would make it incredibly difficult. Okay, so no, you just gotta kind of guess where the trackpad is. What? Why? Like, how? Like, I totally get the whole not having a physical trackpad, but why would you not have, like, something here, like, I don't know, a bump or something, so you at least know where your fingers need to be? I'm sure you could get used to it, but something would be nice. Like, this just looks hilarious. True though. Also, liked saying, like Monica saying, Dell got mad at us for calling it a touch bar, so it's not a touch bar. Video title, is that a touch bar? What do you think about Dell adding a touch bar? It's not a touch bar. It's technically a touch bar, but when you say touch bar, everyone's thinking of the macOS touch bar. But that's not what that is at all. Fortunately, the regular XPS with great keyboard and touchpad will still be available, something either the blogger isn't aware of or they decided to not mention it in the article. Okay, so this is going to be just another part of the XPS line. So what if I actually want to press a function key? Maybe. Look, maybe, as I said, maybe it'll actually have something. This is my concern. I understand using those keys for things like volume, brightness controls, etc. But what about F1 through 12? Found my answer in the Ars... Okay, so Ars Technica actually mentioned this as well. So instead of pressing FN and escape, you can make it display one of two sets of menus. Okay, so it can either display the function keys or it can display the... Okay, so I'm guessing it is working like a keyboard then. Okay. How ridiculous. Hold a button on the bottom left of the keyboard, then hold a touch button on the top left, then you see an F key. That's actually pretty normal for, not seeing the F key, but having to hold down a function key to access either a second macro layer or F keys or something like that. Did I say not F keys? To access second macro layer, usually for things like the media controls, holding down a function key is pretty normal on a like a 40% keyboard, for example. This is functionally identical to 99% of laptops on the face of the planet, most of which don't have a dedicated function row and share the space with media keys. No, the touch bar ship with the awful default setting that changed focus in every app. Supported it. You dig through system preferences to get it that reconfigured. Aha. while I tentatively approve of the not touch bar function row, I don't understand how any Windows users would even tentatively approve this. Function keys are in so many shortcuts, and anyone who does basic word processing or spreadsheet work would be less productive without them. I think it's a cool idea. Like, see, what CES is cool for is showing off really stupid things that nobody actually wants to buy. Like, that's what CES is great for. Now, speaking of really stupid things that nobody wants to buy, gaming chair. Now, a literal gaming chair. This is a gaming chair that is basically a big vibrator. So Razer's Enki Pro Hypersense can jig you to the beat of your games, made in collaboration with D-Box. Basically, as I said, it's basically a big vibrator. So this chair will, like, actually shake. You know, like, probably not to the same extent you would see, you know, if you go to an arcade. There's still arcades that exist near you. And you know how if one does exist there, it'll probably have some sort of racing game. You know how the chair would shake. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that sort of extent. Also, that would be incredibly annoying for anything besides racing games. But this, as I said, this is why I like CES, because really stupid shit like this can happen. Also, I presume it's not battery powered. What's not shown are the wires. Okay, so it's going to obviously. Okay. So if it's not battery powered, that would mean you need to have a power cable running to it. Because there's no way, this would be able to be powered by USB power. Not a chance. USB power would not be enough to drive this motor. So you need to have a power cord to it, and also a cord to your computer. Moving this chair would be a pain in the ass. But I think it's cool. I think it'd be cooler if it was wireless. Like, obviously you still need to power it some way, but at least wireless to the computer. So, I don't know, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, or whatever you want to do. Let's see what the comments are saying for this one. Similar to D-Box's movie theater seats that can... movie theater seats that can rumble and move. Anyone watched a movie that uses these seats? Seems kind of distracting. I remember watching a movie back when I was a kid. At Movie World? Yes, at Movie World. There was I think they called it at the time like a 4D screening of some movie or something. I think like Jurassic Park or something, where basically the chair moved, you were sprayed in the face with stuff, and also you had 3D glasses on. Like, it was just a shit experience. Like, it was cool as a kid, but looking back at it, it was a shit experience. But I think in certain situations, a moving chair would be better. I think there's a lot of games, though, you know, the vast majority of games, which I think would make it worse. Like, it's the same reason why, like, on any game controller, for example, I disable rumble. Because for the most part, I just think rumble is distracting. I don't think it adds anything to the game. I think all it does is just makes me pay less attention to what's going on. Oh, wait. Hold on a second. The big question with this chair is compatibility. Imagine your big concern is my game compatible with my chair? Razer says that over 2,200 games, movies, and music tracks offer native support. Okay, sure. That seems like a lot, but in terms of games, Razer only shared Forza Horizon 5. Okay, that's one of the few games where it actually matters. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I don't want that. F1 2021. Okay, so out of the 3 games they mentioned, 2 of these, I think it actually would be a better experience. So the difference with something like Forza Horizon 5 and F1 2021, and actually pretty much all racing games, you as the player, like in the game, your character is sitting down. When you're sitting down and the player is actually sitting down, or the character sitting down, that allows you to actually create some sort of like, I guess, connection between the character. You sort of feel more engaged in the game. I think in those games it makes sense. Assassin's Creed Valhalla would be weird because you're running around in the game, but you are you're sitting down as a person. So it doesn't, I don't think it would really work the same way. I think for music and movies, it's a different experience. Definitely music. Because, you know, people already like giant subs, so effectively having a sub attached to your ass, I think might be an interesting experience. I'd be up for that one. Movies, the same sort of bet. I think focusing down on the... If it's focused more on the audio side rather than the player movement, I think it might work. Outside of games, obviously, like racing games. But if it's focused on like what the character is doing, I really don't think it's going to be sensible. I think anyone who buys this chair is going to realize very quickly, like, wait, this is actually shit. Also, is the side of this chair made of carbon fiber? Is that carbon fiber or just plastic that looks like, or plastic that just is painted to look like carbon fiber? Why am I getting hiccups in the middle of a show? God damn it, this is going to be pain. Yay. And that's pretty much the end of the CES stuff, but it's not the end of the podcast. That is just the beginning. I could have gone on like way more CES stuff I really wanted to, but I wanted to talk about other stuff that's not CES. Since we're pretty much to the end of the first part, I want to talk about a fun thing that, you know, could make your podcast so much better. God damn it, these hiccups. Oh no, this is going to make it so much fun. Okay. You know, maybe I should just stop now and refresh and get rid of the hiccups, but no, I'm going to wing it. Hopefully they go away. Podcasters are letting the software pick their ads. It's already going awry. So basically, a Google AdSense way of applying ads to a podcast. Now, this is fine for a podcast like mine, where I don't give a shit. And, you know, if I get an ad for, like, if I was to do this and then all of a sudden, like an ad for vibrators was added to the podcast, or an ad for, I don't know, some drug, because advertising drugs in the US is a normal thing, apparently. Or, like, an ad for KFC. I don't care. Anything, any sort of ad would be... God damn it, these hiccups! Would be perfectly accepted by me. But, you know, there are some shows where they have sort of like, you know, a brand image, and that they're trying to maintain a brand image. Like, for example, you have a kids show, and you're like, well, let's have an ad that's, you know, targeted towards adults on the kids show. That's not going to go too well for both the advertisers, who don't want to have their stuff shown to people who are definitely not supposed to be seeing it, but also for the podcast itself, which is going to be sort of, it's a lot of people aren't going to realize the ads themselves aren't directly associated with the content of the actual show. So even though someone who knows what's going on would be able to discern those two things, if you don't know that and you just throw something on, if you see that show up, you're going to be like, why is this here? What is going on? These things make you hard to think. God damn it. I'm going to have to take a break for like 5 minutes. Where was it going? Right. For a podcast like mine, don't care. But I can totally see why anyone would be bothered by this. But you know what? If you are bothered by it and you want to have very specific ads, just do the ad stuff yourself. Go and, you know what? Go and actually vet your ads. Make sure that the ads actually fit your project and fit the theming you're going for, to make sure you don't have something that just seem completely out of place. Because the Google AdSense model makes sense on YouTube, because YouTube doesn't really have any ads that are that outlandish for the most part. There are actual obvious scams on YouTube, but for the most part, it's like, hey, you want an ad for fucking Clive Palmer? This fucking hell. I'm getting nothing but Clive Palmer ads right now. Or you want an ad for some KFC or some McDonald's? Well, that's fine. It's not like you have, you know, the Pornhub ad network also inside of AdSense, and that's just going on to like, hey, here's this video about the new Lego set, for example. But I'm going to take a 5-minute break, try to deal with these hiccups, and we'll get back to it. Okay, now we're back. Hopefully that doesn't become a problem again, and we can just move forward with the rest of the podcast so that nothing else gets ruined by my evil hiccups. Now, oh god, don't start yawning as well. Anyway, I want to talk about, what do we want to talk about? Actually, you know what, we'll talk about Curse of the Dead Gods, actually. So, recently I started playing Curse of the Dead Gods. Curse of the Dead Gods is a roguelite. It's one of those many a roguelite that exists nowadays. I would say it's I think the best way to describe it, a lot of people describe it like Hades. I think a better way to describe it is it's Dead Cells cross Hades. I think that's the better way to look at it. If you look up Curse of the Dead Gods, one of the first things that shows up is Curse of the Dead Gods versus Hades. I feel like overall Hades is a better game. But they're both really, really good games. So, Curse of the Dead Gods. Where do I even start with this? So, actually, no, we'll start right at the start. My biggest problem with the start of the game, it just throws mechanics at you. So, you're thrown into the game, and it's just like, okay, you're in this room. Doesn't give you any instruction on what's actually going on. And then you go forward to the tutorial area. Now, the tutorial just throws things over and over and over and over again at you. If you're not paying enough attention, it's pretty easy to miss some fairly useful concepts. I think the tutorial could do a better job with being sort of, I guess, more slowly, I guess, introduced you. Like, okay, obviously introduce your attack straight away, but here's your attacks, then here's your dodge, maybe go into another room, try out these things for a little bit. Okay, here's how stat boosts work, here's how other weapons work, and all that fun stuff. I actually did notice another problem with the tutorial. So, the tutorial expects you to die after you go and actually play through one of the areas. Now, if you don't die, it never shows you that tutorial. So you can be playing for like 10 hours, and if you never die, it will just never show you the rest of the tutorial. And because this game it's nowhere near as difficult as something like Hades, it's pretty easy to get fairly far in the game, never seeing that tutorial. So, the basic structure of how it works is you start off with these 3 dungeons you can go to, or 3 areas of the temple you can go to. Now, the top of the temple is 4 areas long, but you can't actually access the top of the temple in your first run. So it's sort of got this, I guess you describe it as like an anti-speedrunner mechanic built in. So, if you're trying to speedrun the game, you by default cannot actually get to the end of the game on your first run. So the way you get further in the game is finishing each of these individual levels, and then you get to the next section. So when you fight the first boss, Basically, then you leave that area of the temple and you have to go run it again. And when you run it again, then you can actually access the second boss. Once you beat the second boss, it takes you out. Then you run it again. You can access the third boss, so on and so forth. And there's actually 3 paths you can take. So you can take, I guess they'd be split up into the health path, the damage path, and the perception path. But the damage and like the way they act doesn't really have anything to do with the stat boost you get. So, like with Dead Cells, it splits up your stats into 3 stats: health, damage, or what's it called? I think Constitution, which is health, Dexterity, which is damage, and then Perception, which is drops. Now, the colors align with Dead Cells, but the colors have nothing to do with the Dead Cells style of handling damage upgrades, where you have like red weapons, blue weapons, and green weapons. Every single weapon scales off of Dexterity, which is your damage stat. So it's just using the same colors. It's not actually the exact same system. The reason why I describe it partially as like Dead Cells, or Dead Cells crossed with Hades, is because it's got the sort of the Hades style of combat, but you don't just get one weapon at the start and then go all the way to the end with that one weapon. You actually can pick and choose weapons as you go throughout the temple. So you might run across a room that gives you a new weapon, or maybe an enemy will drop a new weapon, and you can just replace your current weapon with whatever you find, whether it's like a whip or a dagger. Different weapons have different slots, so you can't have like 2 whips, for example. Whips are always going to be a secondary weapon. That is one of the things that does differ from Dead Cells, where you can literally run around with 2 whips if you really want to, or like a lot of really dumb builds you can do with Dead Cells. But where's it going with this? The big difference it has between both those games, though, is you actually have firstly, you have a finisher mechanic. So the final hit in all your combos is always going to be, firstly, a different animation, but also a way stronger attack. And there's actually a lot of weapons that have effects attached to that finisher, like when you do your finisher, then you will do the enemy will start burning or something like that. So you can also combine those finishes. So you can be like, I'm going to attack twice with my main weapon and then once with my secondary weapon. And that will actually do the first 2 attacks with your main and then the finisher for your secondary. So when you swap weapons, like in the middle of a combo, the second weapon the weapon you swap to is always going to be a finisher. So it's a way to get a finisher earlier in a combo. Sometimes you might not want that. Sometimes you might want to string out the combo longer to get, like, maybe have the enemy flinch longer or something like that. But it sort of depends on the scenario you're in. Maybe the enemy's going to die, like, in 3 more hits with the combo, but 1 hit with the finisher. So if you end the combo now, do the finisher early, the enemy will die quicker. Now, I mentioned the stamina system. So at the start of the game, you have, I think it's 5 stamina. Yeah, 5 stamina. So you have 5 stamina. This stamina will recover, I don't know the exact timing, but it will recover when you're not doing actions like attacking or dodge rolling. So attacking you can do without having any stamina. So the only thing you can't do when you have no stamina is dodge rolling, and also your finishers. Finishers require at least 1 point of stamina. So you always want to make sure you have stamina. Otherwise, if something happens, you just won't be able to dodge out of the way. It's kind of annoying to worry about managing it, but it does add sort of an extra thing to worry about that does sort of keep the combat kind of interesting. Some people describe this as like a slower version of Hades. I think in some ways that's fair, but the combat being slow is really only a factor of how bad you are at the game. So when you kill an enemy, you gain 1 point of stamina. When you parry an enemy, you gain 1 point of stamina. When you dodge an enemy's attack, actually no, I think you might gain 2 points of stamina when you parry. When you dodge an enemy's attack at the last moment, you gain 1 point of stamina. So as long as you're keeping up this chain of killing stuff and dodging and mainly parrying, killing stuff and parrying, then you can keep the game actually pretty fast-paced. I I think it's definitely fair to call it slower than Hades is, um, but not by much. It's not like, you know, you're going from Hades to Dark Souls. It's more like, you know, you're going from Hades to being a bad Hades player. Like that's sort of the speed difference you actually have. Also, when you parry an enemy, they will basically be, I think it's called weakness. I think that's what they call it. They will basically take extra damage. So for, I think it's like 2 or 3 seconds, they will be able to take extra damage from your hits. And it's sort of expected that you abuse that mechanic and get in as much damage as possible. Now, the other similarity it has with Dead Cells is when you finish, I think it's when you finish 1 BC. I think it's 1 BC. You can unlock weapon tubes. I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong on the point, but anyway, you can unlock weapon tubes in Dead Cells, where you can choose you want to have this set of weapons or that set of weapons. Basically, every time you start your run, it is a different random set of weapons. This game also has the exact same thing. It's not weapon tubes, but there is a table that has 2 weapons on it by default, 3 weapons if you unlock your heavy weapon as one of the roles, and there's a maximum of 4 tables. So it sort of gives you the ability to pick what weapon you want to start the run with, or you can just start with the basic weapon, which is a sword and a gun. The gun's actually pretty good. So every weapon has a charge attack as well. So swords are I think swords are, I think it's like a big swing or something. Daggers, you charge the enemy and then you do a big stab in them. Guns have a thing called perfect shot, where basically it just does more damage. Whips have a spinning attack. The spinning attack is... Wait, did I say whips have a spinning attack? No, whips have a whip. You lasso something. That's what their charge attack is. Their finisher is a spin attack. But most of the time, charge attacks don't really matter. They can be useful in some situations, like if you have a whip, for example, bring an enemy closer to you. Charge attacks with a gun can be pretty good as well. Dagger, sometimes not really, from my experience. And swords, if the sword has like a bonus on charge attack, then maybe. There's also knives. Knives are fun. Like throwing knives. That when you do the charge attack for that one, it will basically just shoot out 4 knives in like directions around you. Shields are a basic shield bash, nothing too crazy. Some of the most fun weapons are actually these, the 2-handed weapons though. So you get a big ass hammer, you get a spear. The spear's not that fun, it's a spear. You get a bow, which is just a worse gun. Where it gets fun though is with the explosives. So the basic attack with the explosive is you throw an explosive, which can't damage you, which is also good. Because you can't actually move towards the explosive when it does the throw, which is great. I love it. It makes it so much fun, because I hate games that have explosives that actually damage the player. And my camera cut out for just a moment. So the basic attack is a single throw, but the charge attack throws out 3 bombs. Now, because these bombs throw out in a radius, you can actually target it like so. I'll target it like a enemy is in 2 of these circles at once, doing a double damage. And I think that's the intended... I think it's intended for room clear, but it's actually really powerful for just single enemies as well. But when it does come to these, like the 2-handed weapon, most of them don't matter. The only 2-handed weapons that matter in the game and should ever be used are hammers and explosives. So these are counted as heavy weapons. There might be another type, but you never want to take a bow, you never want to take a spear. Both those are completely useless. So the reason why you want to have a heavy weapon is because as you go throughout the level, you'll notice there's going to be these walls that have a crack in them. And those walls might have bonus money, they might have a different path you can take, things like that. So having a heavy weapon in your 2-handed slot basically lets you open up those walls. Now, there are other ways to open up those walls, because traps can blow them up. Like, there might be an explosive barrel near it, or maybe there's a trap that will shoot out a fireball, and things like that will be able to damage the wall as well. I didn't mention traps yet, did I? So Traps are really interesting in this game. Unlike a lot of these games where, yes, the environment can damage enemies, and yeah, you can take advantage of in some situations, in this game, it's very much encouraged. So because the enemies tend to move considerably slower than they do in a game like Hades or Dead Cells, if you set off an explosive barrel and the enemies are within that range, unless that enemy can teleport, which some of them can, they're going to be hit by the barrel. And a lot of the weaker enemies will die straight away. The bigger ones, like there's a big dude that has a big axe. He won't, obviously, because he's a tougher enemy. But like the little grunt enemies, usually they're going to die in one hit or take some severe damage, and you can finish them off pretty damn quickly. And you actually want to... Here's one of the other things that makes it, like, sort of takes away from the idea that this game is a slow-paced game. So, when you kill stuff quickly, or you make sure you're keeping up your attack combo, there is a system known as greed. Basically, the idea is it's called greed, but there's no downside to it. Like, it's only going to make your experience better if you manage to do it well. So basically, greed is, as you build up your greed gauge, killing things drops more money. Like, there's no reason to not be doing that. So, you might kill, like, 10 things in a row and have, like, a greed gauge of, I think it'd be, like, 500% extra money or something like that. And it will expire very quickly, but as you keep doing that, you just gain more and more and more money. And money's very important. So, I didn't mention, I still have not mentioned the two main sort of aspects of this game. The curses and mainly the curses and also the lighting system. So, a lot of games have a lighting system basically there as a way to make the game more convenient for the player so they can actually see stuff and all of that fun stuff. This game actually makes lighting a core mechanic of the game. So, always on your screen in the bottom center, there's going to be a little symbol that either is yellow to mean the room's lit up, or purple-ishy if the room is dark. Now, when a room is dark, you cannot see traps. So the only traps you can see are the traps that will be like explosives, but you won't be able to see spikes on the ground, for example. And I'm sure there are other traps that I haven't come across yet. There's also these little landmines you won't be able to see either. So basically, any of the proximity traps you won't be able to see, except the big heads that shoot fireballs. Because obviously, it shoots a fireball, you can see it anyway. So basically, the other thing is when the room's dark, you also take bonus damage. So your intention, unless you have a build that is specifically built around darkness, is to always keep the room lit up in some way. So you can either use your torch that you always have with you. That's always going to be bound to the A button. There's no way to get rid of your torch. And then around most rooms, there's going to be these little, I guess, altar things you can light. Also, you can light up enemies. So you can actually light an enemy on fire and then use the enemy as a light source. This is a really cool mechanic because there are also weapons that do bonus damage to flaming enemies and things like that. So that's the lighting mechanic. Lighting is a core, integral part of this game, and you want to typically make sure you are in the light. But you can't always be in the light because of the curse system. The curse system is really, really cool. I don't always like the final curse, but besides the final curse, it's typically pretty good. So basically, you can take up to 5 curses. You don't control what the curses are, the game will just give them to you. So at the bottom of your screen, in the bottom right-hand corner, there is going to be a purple curse gauge. When that curse gauge fills up, you'll be given a curse. Now, this fills up by either taking damage from enemies that do corruption damage, or by going into a new room. So every time you go into a new room, unless you have an ability that will lower the amount of corruption you get, you're going to get 20 corruption added to that gauge. So basically, when that gauge fills up, you'll be given a curse. The curses aren't always inherently bad. So you might get a curse that's like, it makes, explosive barrels have a bigger range, which might seem bad, but that also counts for doing damage to the enemies. So that actually could be a benefit. But there's also ones like, every time you enter a room, you're going to be charged 300 gold, but upon entering the room, if you manage to pay that gold, you'll actually get a 10% health recovery. So, like, usually the curses have, like, a drawback, but also something that adds to them as well. But then the 5th curse is always going to be a bad curse. So one of the curses you might get is you just continuously take damage until you fall down to 1% health. Sorry, not 1%, 1 health. Now, there's not really any way to avoid getting all 5 curses in the longer runs. So from my experience, getting 5 curses in the 2-boss run is pretty difficult. So when you go to a healing room, to get healed, it's going to cost you curse or corruption. You can also pay corruption if you don't want to pay a vendor gold to like buy a new weapon or buy an upgrade or buy a stat upgrade, things like that. But if you have the gold, usually using the gold is a better choice to go with. But once you get all 5 curses, or you get any number of curses, that doesn't mean it's the end. There are a couple of ways to get rid of curses. One of those is by getting one of the unique weapons, I think they're called. These can be obtained from fighting is it called a curse chest? Now, I'm going to show you something that is going to surprise you if you've played Dead Cells. Curse of the Dead Gods, Cursed... Oh, they're called cursed weapons. Yeah. They're called cursed weapons, not unique weapons. Yeah, I think it's actually supposed to be... Yeah, it's supposed to be a Dead Cells, crossover. Okay, that makes sense. So, it's literally just a Dead Cells curse chest. With that update also came things that are evil. Like, the sword that gets you killed in 1 hit. Which is terrifying. I don't want anything to do with that. But if you go and finish one of these curse chests, then if you don't want the weapon, you can always sell the weapon, and then you'll get a curse removed. Curse chests are actually a lot safer in this game than they are in Dead Cells, where in Dead Cells, once you activated the chest, if you took a hit, you would die. You would just die completely. In Curse of the Dead Gods, you still have to kill a number of enemies, but if you get hit by one, then you don't die. It's just the chance of getting the reward completely disappears. So it's not a run ender anymore. From my experience, it's just a good idea to run curse chests if they're an option. You're paying 1 hit for the chance at losing a curse. Like, there's no reason to not do that. It's basically a free chance at an amazing item, or just a curse removal. And now, obviously, curse chests aren't going to be in every single run, but there is a separate option you have. That is, every time you defeat a boss, you have the option to remove one of your curses. And that's pretty much what you've got. I don't know if there's anything else. I don't think there's anything else. I think it's just selling cursed items and defeating bosses. So on the 3rd boss and further, you're pretty much going to be stuck getting something corrupted. Oh, there is one other method. So sometimes weapons are going to have effects on them. Sometimes you can find weapons that are like, every time an enemy dies, lose 2 corruption, or lose 3 corruption. Or you could find a relic where if you, build up your greed meter, you lose corruption instead, or something like that. I don't know if that exists, but there are ways to lower your corruption. But I believe if you lower your corruption like that, you don't actually lose a curse. But it is a good way to make sure you don't have your corruption gauge actually being massively built up over time. I've only had to deal with the final curse twice so far, and both times it's been pretty difficult. The second time, not because the curse was the problem, but because at the 3rd boss, the game just gets considerably harder. So basically, what happens is the first boss is a joke. If you die to the first boss, you've probably never played a video game before, because the first boss is genuinely easy. Now, the second boss is a bit harder. Second boss in all the areas is a bit harder, but I would say the hardest one probably is the blue or green path, whichever one can corrupt you when you fight that boss. When the route ends at that boss, it doesn't... Oh, no. Sorry, the one... No, it's green. Green's the hardest, I would say. Blue just throws explosives at you. That's not too bad. Green, I think, was the worst one, if I remember correctly, but I might be remembering wrong. Anyway, all of those bosses are still very easy compared to the third boss. The third boss on the Constitution route has so much fucking health that I don't know how you're supposed to defeat it, because it hits like a fucking truck, and it has just an enormous amount of health. It's actually way harder than the previous two bosses. It feels like they just missed a difficulty step in there somewhere, and like, oh, enjoy this boss, have fun just absolutely suffering through it. But I think it's still fun. I think one of the problems this game has, though, I think it's a problem for its difficulty. I think you could tone down the further game difficulty if you raised up the early game by just lowering your health pool. So you start the game with 1,000 health. Now, 1,000 health is a lot. This would be like starting Hades. Actually, what is the Hades starting health? Hades starting health. I think it's like 50. Yeah, 50. This would be like starting Hades with like, I think maybe 400. Like, it's so much extra health that it doesn't even become a problem until the third area. I think this game would be much harder, and much harder earlier on, if you started the game with probably 500 would be reasonable. 500, I think that would make the game more difficult without it being, like, unfairly difficult. Obviously, you'd have to tone down how much damage the third boss does, so it doesn't do 450 anymore. But I think 500 would make more sense. But that's just me. Maybe it's difficult enough for other people, I'm just getting better at this genre, but at least from... Like, I still feel like Hades without any mods is difficult. Like, I can get through an entire run no trouble, but I still feel like there's at least some challenge there. Curse the Dead Gods up until second boss, unless I'm streaming, no challenge whatsoever. And first boss, there's never a challenge. First boss is always just an absolute meme. But I want to talk about the one thing that the biggest thing that I don't like about this game. Overall, it's a very good game. But the biggest thing I don't like is that the enemies have collision boxes. So in both Hades and Dead Cells, you can run through the enemies. This is a good idea because it stops you being able to get trapped in a corner. And it's a good idea in most games that have it available. I like the idea of just being able to phase through enemies or have some way to get through them. Curse the Dead Gods, though. Yes, you can knock enemies back with a hammer or with explosives, and you can go and, like, attack them away through other means to get through. But if you don't attack them, you cannot walk through them. So you can be in a situation where you have enemies surrounding you, and basically you just get pummeled to death. It is more realistic. Yeah, sure, absolutely. But I don't think realism is always the best thing that a game should have, or the optimal thing for a game to have. I think sometimes throwing away realism just for improved usability would be better, because it's not like it makes the game harder. Like, there's not been any times when I've died because I've been body blocked. It just makes the game more tedious. Like, I can always get out of those situations, but because most of the games I play don't have that, it's still a pain. And if you are going to do body blocking, at least body block the way that Ender Lilies does. So Ender Lilies, it doesn't have body blocking, but if you touch an enemy with your body, you take damage. I think that's reasonable and makes the game makes sense with that game. I don't know if it makes sense in Curse of the Dead Gods, because in Ender Lilies, when an enemy touches, you can actually block that. You can't obviously block that here because, you know, body blocking. But I think in this game, it would be too much of a pain if enemies could attack you like that, especially because Ender Lilies genuinely is a much, much slower game. Obviously, there are bosses like the dude who swings at you with his big claw arms, which I don't remember the name of, who can fucking almost one-shot people in most situations. But apart from him, it's genuinely a slower game. So body blocking in that, like even body blocking with just getting damaged, isn't as big of a deal from what I can tell. I think that's pretty much everything I want to say about this, but I spent about half an hour effectively reviewing Curse of the Dead Gods. So my conclusion here is I think Curse of the Dead Gods is a really good game. I do not know if, like Hades and like Dead Cells, there is like a difficulty system after you finish beat the final boss once. If there's not, this game has basically no content. If there is, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, and will actually give the game some level of longevity. The other nice thing this has is because this game doesn't really have like any obvious lore. It's like Dark Soulsy lore where it's told through item descriptions. It's pretty easy to add in new areas if the if the devs really want to. Like Hades, it's obviously more difficult because you have this set out layer of the underworld. You can still add stuff, but it's a bit harder. Dead Cells, it also doesn't matter because, you know, it's Dead Cells. It's this made-up world anyway. But because Curse of the Dead Gods really doesn't give you anything lore-wise, it would be cool if more areas are actually added, like, further into the game's life cycle, because this game's only been a full release for about a year now. So it's still fairly new, and I really hope it actually has longevity, unlike Hades, where Hades just never had new content added to it. So once you get to endgame, basically all you're doing is just making the game harder. Like, you've got every weapon, you've done every area like 70 times already. You know how all the enemies attack, and yeah, it gets kind of boring at some point. I hope this game doesn't fall into that problem. Even though this game has a lot more weapons, it doesn't have more weapon variety. So each weapon class, like daggers, bows, knives, swords, anything like that, they all have the same animation as every other weapon in that class. So every sword attacks like a sword. Every throwing knife attacks like a throwing knife. Basically, the way to think of other weapons is other weapons are basically a weapon with different effects. So there's one dagger in this game, and sometimes that dagger has poison. Sometimes that dagger has fire. Sometimes that dagger does bonus crit damage. All of that fun stuff. So let's move on from Curse of the Dead Gods to another game I obviously play a lot, that being Final Fantasy XIV. So my main focus over the past week has been on crafting and gathering. So I believe I had most of my I've got most of the crafting classes unlocked. So right now I have Goldsmith, Weaver. There was another one. Alchemist. Yes. So there's still a bunch of others that I still need to do. So I've got the Uldar crafters available. I've got both Weaver and Goldsmith to 50 now, but I've also been working on some of my gatherers as well. So my botanist is at 43, I think. Miner is at 50. And I haven't touched my fisher in a while. So that needs to be done at some point, but I think I was on like 33. So my main focus has been on like trying to get crafting up to the end of Realm Reborn. I don't know if I'll do it with all of the other crafters for a while, but maybe it'll happen at some point. So what I've realized is a lot of early crafting just doesn't matter in the market. So, crafting early game is basically just a money sink. Maybe back when, when Realm Reborn was actually, like, current content, I imagine people probably bought Realm Reborn, like, gear and stuff, and Realm Reborn jewelry and all of that fun stuff. Nowadays, though, below level 45, no one really touches it. Like, there's a couple of things that sell, in the jewelry market at least, because when it comes to jewelry isn't that big. Like, if you're not using it for combat, it's not really that big in glamour, because you don't really notice the jewelry that much. Most things are going to be perfectly fine. As long as it's not something that, like, really stands out. Like, you're wearing a completely blue outfit and you have, like, ruby earrings on, for example. But most of that is garbage. Where you actually get money, like, okay, I'm going to give you some advice, right? If you want to make money in Realm Reborn as a crafter, the best way to do it is as a weaver. Like, a weaver, at least if you're doing crafting stuff, the weaver makes so much money because there are a couple of items that are really, really big for glamour. This is where weaver shines compared to the goldsmith, and especially compared to alchemist. No one gives a shit about Realm Reborn potions. Like, none of them are useful. No one gives a shit about Realm Reborn food as a culinarian. None of them are useful. Armorer might actually be the same in this regard, but there are some items that are they're good-looking items. So, two of those that I've been making, that would be the, let me show you. FF14, patrician set. So the patrician set is the generic level 50 crafting gear. So it looks like, is that the whole set? No, that's not the whole set. I don't care about the coat. The coat, okay, coat does sell fairly well as well. I should bring up the coat. So this is the coat. Now, you may not see why it's super popular, but this is useful if you want to do some, like, RP stuff as, like, you're, I don't know, running some business or something like that. Also, like, the male version looks pretty good as well. This sort of fits in, like, a, like a sort of, I don't know, what's the word? You want to have a businessy meeting. I don't know what fucking RPers do. Anyway, it looks good, and RPers want it. And also people who just like glamour want it as well. It's very cheap to make. Undyed felt is pretty easy to get. It requires rock salt and effervescent water, I believe. Sorry, no, I'm thinking of something else. That's Natron. Natron requires, rock salt and effervescent water. Both these, you can buy rock salt, effervescent water, you can mine at, like, level 5. Snurble tufts sell on the market board pretty cheap. Fleece also sells really, really cheap as well. So getting the felt's really easy. Woolen yarn and linen yarn. Woolen yarn's made from fleece. Linen yarn is made from pretty cheap items as well. I don't remember the exact required. Oh, it's made from flax. Flax sells for, like, 50 gil a piece. So getting all of that is pretty easy. Electrum ingots, that's probably the most expensive thing. But if, like me, you level up mining, Electrum is a level 45, or I believe an ingot requires 4 pieces of Electrum. So if you buy Electrum from, it's 4. So if you buy Electrum from the market board, at least on my server, it's about 1,600 gil for the Electrum ingot. I would say total gil cost, if you're buying it on my server, is probably in the range of 2,000, maybe 2,500 gil at the absolute highest. And the patrician coat sells for about 2,800. But the one that sells also really well is the patrician bottoms. Now, you're going to see exactly why patrician bottoms sell really well. FFXIV. No, I don't want that. Show me on an actual character. So on Gamer Escape. Show me the money. Here we go. Male character, it doesn't look great on. Female character, though. Now you can see why people actually use this. Pretty boring male. Honestly, a lot of things are boring male characters. But, like, now you can see why the people who care about glamour care about buying these. These have basically the same requirements. I think it's actually less resources. And these sell... yeah, it is slightly less. It requires one less felt. These sell for about 2,200 on my server. Obviously, you want to always be selling them as high quality. Otherwise, you're just having a harder time selling them. But there's other items that you unlock around level 50 that also sell really well as well. FFXIV White Beret. Now, unlike a lot of the other berets, this one really stands out. Also, it dies really well. So let's see. Here we go. So a lot of the other berets have like a feather on them and all of that fun stuff. The white beret, though, this has a little. What would you even call it? I don't know what you call it. It's got a little fluff ball on it. So this obviously fits with any sort of like wintry theme glamour you might have. And as I said, it dies really well as well. So here's a random glamour that I found. Images. Here we go. Here's one. Looks really good. Here's a Christmassy one. Like, as you can see, obviously, if you're going for a Christmas glamour, this works really, really well. It fits with, honestly, a lot of outfits. As I said, it dies really, really well. But, you know, it's mainly winter situations you want to use it. And honestly, it's the shitload of Christmas pictures here. There are things outside of Christmas stuff as well, where it just works really well as well. But yeah, those 3 items all sell really well on my server. I don't know if the white beret is going to sell as well outside of the winter seasons. It might. I'm not too sure. Maybe people want to still wear their winter glamour in the middle of summer, but especially right now, winter themed glamour is selling really well. What you got to do if you want to make money as a weaver, and I guess the same would be as an armorer as well, is get into the mind of people that care about glamour. Like, you're not going to be selling, like, especially level 50, you're not going to be selling items based on their gear usage. No one gives a shit about that. Like, no one cares about Realm Reborn gear. You're going to get better gear in, like, 2 levels anyway when you start getting the Heaven's Ward stuff. Maybe in, like, Endwalker would care. Like, it would matter because a lot of people aren't going to be doing, like, high-end raiding, but still want better gear. And the way you're going to get better gear is either crafting or high-end raiding, so crafting it is then. But you got to get into the mind of people that care about glamour. Like, what sort of sets would someone want to actually use? Like, there's a couple of really cool cloaks, for example. I think it's this. Strike. I think it's the Jacket of Striking. Yes. Yeah, this is the one. Pretty sure it's this one. Yeah, this is it. This one right here. You'll see a lot of samurais using this. I'll see if I can find a picture of a glamour using it, actually. Oh, it's actually is this a monk? Yeah, this is a monk. Also works for a monk as well. Like, this is a really cool bit of gear. I'm pretty sure it's the same cloak. Yeah, that's the Jacket of Striking, dyed in ruby red. Like, as you can see, like, this is a really cool bit of gear. And for the samurais, they usually combine that with there's a hakama you can get as well. I forgot what it's called. Not the one. It's not one of the ones you have to. buy from the gear store. From the Mog shop. Is the yeah, here we go. So it is the Rakshasa Hakama of Striking. That is a level 70 item to craft, but if you can sell part of that set, people are very much going to buy it, especially because, you know, Final Fantasy is a weeb game, so if you sell weeb stuff, people are going to be happy. But the true crafter endgame is understanding what people care about for glamour. If you understand that, all of the money will come to you. Especially if you find items on your server that aren't really being fulfilled that well. Like on my server, for example, there's 2 people that make patrician bottoms, and they sell like 5 a day. That, like, at my range, like a couple 100,000 gil is like, that's a lot of gil. Like that's an absolute ton. Obviously later in the game is a bit different, but right now where I'm at, that is an absolute ton of gil. And stuff like if you can work out what's going to get you that gil, that's I think the best way to approach it. Who cares about, like, oh, you know, in older patches you could buy coke and sell coke. That was a good way to make money. But like, if you want something that's a bit more like consistent, rather than looking for like the one thing that sells well, find the glamour items that people care about and then worry about them. But speaking of like buying and selling stuff, I've also realized that a lot of people in FF14 have no idea how to maintain a functioning economy. I don't know if I still have the picture here. Actually, it should be on my Twitter. So, the way the market board works is every single item is going to be listed in lowest to highest cost. So lowest cost is always going to be at the top. So typically, what you'd want to do is, if you care about a healthy market, you would undercut whoever's at the top by 1. A lot of people get very angry at that because they're like, oh, no, I don't like you undercutting by 1. You should undercut by 10%, or you should undercut by 20%, because that's giving your buyers like an actual discount. I don't care about that. I want to make sure everyone's actually making money, and the best way to make money is to keep the prices as high as possible. So I will undercut by 1. Now, you don't have to undercut by 1 or undercut at all if you're selling against yourself. So if you're the only person on the market board, or maybe you have like 8 items that are all listed above whoever anyone else on the market board is, you don't have to undercut the prices, because all of your stuff is going to be listed at the same level, and because they're all your items, it doesn't matter which one someone buys, it's still going to be selling, and you're still going to make money. So there was some idiot on my server. I'm almost certain I posted it on the Twitter. Yes. Yeah, here it is. Where this is another set of another part of the patrician set, which doesn't sell as well, but it still does sell. Still does sell fairly well. The patrician's gaiters. These are the patrician shoes. Now, Raftalia, 16,500. Raftalia, 18,000. Raftalia, 19,000. Raftalia, 20,000. This person just bought up, you can see all of it, I guess. You can see most of it at least. This person they made all these items and then lowered the price against themselves. So what should have happened here is this person should have listed all of these items at 22,000, because there's no reason to drop them if you're the only person in the market. So what I did is I came in, I bought all these items, and then I relisted them. I took the items, relisted them at a higher price, and made some money off of them. If you're going to be done with the market, I am going to abuse the fact that you're an idiot and make some money off of you. Obviously, you're going to make money from it as well, but I'm going to make more money, and that's what is important to me. But like if you go into the Final Fantasy forums, you'll find people actually arguing about like how much you should undercut by. And I don't know why people actually argue about it. Like, I honestly, the only sensible way to handle this is undercutting by 1. Like, you'll actually find people who are like, oh, thoughts on people who undercut by 1. And are there any ways to troll them? Like, just, do you know what you can, like, here's what you do, okay, if someone undercuts by 1, right? You undercut them again by 1. Here's the funny thing. When someone undercuts, like, so I'll undercut by 1, right? Someone will then come in, undercut by like 10%. I'm still going to undercut you by 1. Like, nothing has changed here. All that has changed is now we are both just making less money. Like, I don't understand the mindset you have to go through to be like, yes, undercut by as much as possible to lower the price as far as you can. With like high pop items, like the patrician set, it's not a big deal because usually what happens is the idiots who are like trying to crash the price get bought out pretty quickly, and then the price goes back up to where it should be. With less pop items, or items that have a lot of sellers, you will see market forces pushing the prices down. But the people who just drive the prices down for the sake of driving the prices down, I really don't understand. This is why it's important to have more than one item that you are worrying about. Like, if you're just worrying about one item, and someone comes in and undercuts it to the absolute floor and just keeps the price down there, you're just gonna be screwed. But if you have multiple items and some idiot comes in and does that, you can always jump around and deal with stuff like that. Like, if someone messes around with my white berets and my patrician coats, I'll just find somewhere else. It seems like the people who are actually dealing with patrician's coats, though, all have this, like, mutual respect amongst each other. Like, you can see the people who actually respect the other crafters on the market board, because all of them are going to be, like, undercut by 1, undercut by 1. Like, we just move back and forth. Maybe they sell, maybe I sell. Someone's going to sell, but we all know the best thing for all of us is keep the price as high as possible. Obviously, you want to keep it at a value that someone's actually going to pay for it. Like, for example, someone the other day bought out the entire market board of blacklit pearls. Now, blacklit pearls I need for a quest. I need to make like a black pearl ring. Normally, black pearl lips, or blacklit pearls, sorry, sell for 500 gil. Someone bought out the entire market board, then someone else came in and started selling them for 50,000 gil. Now, that's a ridiculous price, and nobody's ever going to pay for it. If you actually want to push the price up for something like that, pushing it up to, like, I would have perfectly been happy to pay 2,000 gil, or like 2,000 gil per blacklit pearl. That would have been fine by me. Trying to, like, I don't understand why you'd, like, throw it up so high that nobody would ever pay it. Like, the nice thing about Final Fantasy is there's usually other things you can do. Like, if there's a quest you need to do where you need some specific item, you just not do the quest and, like, do something else for the next week until that person gets bored and, like, there's an actual decent seller on the market. Like, you can always just do other things, and that's usually what I've been doing. It's also worth noting that a lot of the time you'll see like high cost items that seem like they should be selling well, like judging by how many items are actually selling. But what's also important is understanding the amount of an item you're actually selling. So unlike a game like RuneScape, where you'd put in an order for, like, maybe I want to buy, I want to buy like 5 items. Instead of that, you look at the market board and you see the listing. So there might be one order that's selling 1 item, one order selling 99 items, one order selling 20 items. It's important to understand how the item's actually going to be used. So something like Electrum, for example. So Electrum is a tier ore, it's a tier ingot. There's a massive set of gear that is made with Electrum. So if a crafter is going through trying to craft all of the Electrum items, selling 99 Electrum makes a lot of sense. But when it's something where it's like, I need one of these items, selling a stack of 99 doesn't really make any sense. You're pretty much all you're doing is you're just selling, or you're hurting your chances of actually selling the item. You want to keep your stacks sort of lined up with what players actually need. Let's actually have a look at some of these things about undercutting. Undercutting bots are ruining the game's economy right now. They probably are if you have bots doing it, to be completely honest. People, when something like Emery is worth 50k on the market, and the lowest price says 50,000 gil, you don't have to mark your price down to 40 or 30k to entice people to buy yours first. You only need to mark it down by 1 gil, and it will still be at the top of the list. This way you don't screw up the markets for yourself or anyone else the next time you want to sell something at a higher price. People will price what they feel like. Don't get me wrong, I'm a full believer in the 1 gil undercut, but you can't control what others will do. If it crashes, it's time to move to another market. Yeah, this is the biggest thing. If you can find a market where everybody in it is respectful of the other people in the market, you can absolutely be in that for a while. But there are morons who will just crash the prices as much as they feel like. But the nice thing about morons who crash the price, as I said earlier, if you have the extra gil, buy them out and just sell their shit again. Back when I was playing RuneScape a lot, there was a time when I was really big into doing the whole trading thing. Like playing the Grand Exchange, reading charts, finding out where prices are going. There was a time when I was like, that was what I was really into. So now that I've discovered the market board, and the market board is a lot more manageable. That I think is also another big point about the market board. RuneScape, because it's a world Grand Exchange, it's selling with everybody like in the game. It's harder to sort of openly manipulate, maybe it sounds bad, openly manipulate the market, but when you have a much smaller market board, it's pretty easy to buy out the market board in a lot of cases and just roll it back at a better price. I'm not saying that you should be destroying markets like that, because in a lot of cases, if you do it wrong, you can get yourself burnt. Like, you buy out an item, you list it too high, and then by the time that people actually buy, by the time you actually have to lower your price to get people to buy it, you're now making less money than you would have bought. But if someone, openly undercuts by, a reasonable amount, and you know the item is actually worth more, just buy them out. Just get them off the market and just sell them again and make money off of their stupidity. That, as I said, is, that's the way I handle it. Oh, man. I don't know, I have not played, I have not played the MSQ in so long at this point. At some point, I will, go and finish A Realm Reborn and start Heaven's Ward. But, yeah, not right now. One item I actually would like to sell, what is it called? The Moonfire Halter. This is an item that sells for an absolute fucking metric ton. I think it's 100,000 gil on a bad day. This is the Moonfire Halter. This is obviously, this is only available for female characters. There is also a male version of this, which sells for much less. But the Moonfire Halter, the reason why the Moonfire Halter sells for so much money is because, 1, it looks really good. 2, it dies really well. And 3, it's one of the very few bikinis that are available without going through the Mog Shop. Most of the bikinis are available through Mog Shop. There was a bikini that came out with an event years ago, but obviously because it's an old event at this point, you can no longer get it. And Square Enix is very aware that people will pay money for a bikini, so they don't add more into the game. So this one retains its value very well. The problem with the Moonfire Halter is the items that it requires to make it also cost basically as much as the fucking gear. So it requires 3 merino cotton cloths, and merino cotton cloths can only be obtained through treasure maps. So you have to get lucky that you get them. They sell for about 30k each. Yeah. Yeah, they're a little bit expensive. So they're kind of hard to come by. I think the Moonfire hat also sells for quite a bit as well. It's like a sailor hat. I don't think this one doesn't sell for anywhere near as much, but it definitely wait, can you even wear it as a where the fuck did the hat go? You just got a picture of Viera here. Where the hell's the hat? Can Viera not wear it? Or does it just not appear on their head? Man, if it doesn't appear on their head, that is an absolute scam. That's an absolute scam if you're playing a Viera and you buy it. Yeah, so that's an item I would like to have, but it's just not gonna or I'd like to be able to craft as well, it's just not gonna happen. One day, I would like to fill out my entire crafting log, but some items in there are they're just ludicrously difficult to craft, so, like, in some, or not ludicrously difficult, sometimes just ludicrously expensive, and it's just not gonna happen. Obviously, it'll happen at some point when I get to, like, a higher level, and then, 100k doesn't really matter, but, as for right now, yeah, not gonna happen. But you can actually see some pretty good glamours with the Moonfire Halter. Oi, where'd it go? So here's one in here. Wait, is this one in here? Yes, it is. Here's one in here where it's dyed pure white. Like, this is a really cool looking set. Like, this is why it sells for so much, because, like, it is just genuinely, like, a good looking piece of gear. I don't know why most people don't bother dyeing it, though. Like, a lot of people seem to just use it as its what's the word? As its base form. But yeah, I've been talking about crafting in Final Fantasy for a while, haven't I? Oh, Lord. Let's see. Oh, yeah, so, we'll move on from that, and I'll talk about some NFTs and some Linux stuff. Now, I just realized something. I wasn't showing it on the screen, but when you look up the Moonfire Halter on Google Images or something like that, one of the results you get is a nude mod. So yeah, I didn't show that on my screen, but I just I just noticed that one just after I finished recording. It's fine. It's not on my screen. Yes, nude mods exist for Final Fantasy because, of course, they do. Oh, actually, no. I was going to talk about something that's not Final Fantasy. Before we do that, though, there's a very important item that was added in 6.05 that I need to mention. So, 6.05 dropped the other day, and Square Enix straight up just said, you know what? ERPers, we respect you. We respect you, and we think that you should have stuff in the game to help you out. They added in a dance pole. Like, straight up added in a stripper pole. I'll see if I can find, yeah, here we go. Here's Mione showing it off. Final Fantasy 14. Final Fantasy 14. This is a video game. Now, because you don't have the ability to actually interact with the pole, you can dance around it, but the reason, like, because you don't have the ability to interact with the pole, the only thing the pole serves to do is using tools like G-Pose. G-Pose is a tool that lets you pose your character and take screenshots. Now you have a stripper pole. Now you have a stripper pole. Now you have a stripper pole so you can do stripper screenshots. Like, the fact there's no, like, emote to interact with it, is telling me that Square Enix specifically added this for the G poses and for the ERPs. Like, that's the only reason this exists in the game. There's no other reason. There's no other reason for this to actually be added. But you know what? This right here, exactly this right here, leads us into one of our other topics. I'm gonna close that now. Leads us into one of our other topics. That being the whole metaverse nonsense going on right now. There is this weird, I've been talking about this on Twitter a bit, but there is this weird idea that metaverses are like this new thing. Metaverses are like this new crazy thing that we've never had before. And Samsung's got their own like weird metaverse thing there. They were showing off at CES. And it's just like, you know what? This is just Second Life. This is just IMVU, whatever it was called. This is just Habbo Hotel. Metaverses, no matter how much you want to push them, are not new. They've been around for a long time. And outside of just games that are designed to be like social games, Final Fantasy XIV is a metaverse. World of Warcraft is a metaverse. RuneScape is a metaverse. Every single MMORPG on the planet is a metaverse. Like, are you actually going to tell me that a game like Final Fantasy that has literal nightclubs is not a fucking metaverse? Sure. The difference we have with the metaverses being pushed right now is that metaverses are this new VR and AR thing, and maybe they have crypto in them as well. But like, this idea of metaverses is not new. Is not new whatsoever, and I really don't know like how everyone is being conned into thinking metaverses are new. Is it just that corporate has never played a video game? Like, that's very likely. Is it just that nobody in corporate has ever played a video game and has no idea that things like this have existed for such a long time? That is the only thing that like makes sense in my head. That's the only way I can see this actually being like an idea that, you know, an idea that I guess people think is possibly new. It seems like a lot of people are starting to catch on. The Verge, for example, they were talking about Samsung's thing and literally described it as Second Life. So it seems like outside of the weird corporate space, people are starting to catch on to the fact that metaverses have been around for a long time. They haven't really got the whole way there. They're like, oh yes, Second Life and IMVU and Habbo Hotel, but like every single MMORPG on the planet, I think you could rightly declare as a metaverse. Some of them do it better. Like, I think a game such as obviously Final Fantasy, but World of Warcraft, RuneScape, Elder Scrolls Online, you know, games that are good, or at least were good at some point, and have people that actually have a strong community in that game. Obviously, if the game doesn't have a community, if the game is actually dead, like, I think you can't really call it a metaverse at that point. But if people are, you know, making nightclubs, they are, you know, they're creating these groups of fucking bards and having concerts. Like, there's actual concerts in Final Fantasy. I think we can call it a metaverse. That's just my rant about metaverses. Let me just rant about crypto now. So, first part of that crypto rant is, what's my hair doing? Is, I love this. This one I laugh at. The second one we don't. So two NFT copycats are fighting over which is the real fake Bored Ape Yacht Club. So Bored Apes, in case you don't know, is this really stupid project where you buy pictures of poorly drawn apes for absurd amounts of money, like multiple tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars for really ugly art. And there are two projects that are basically like, firstly, they've proven that NFTs are not non-fungible, or like the images are not non-fungible because, you know, you can just make another NFT with it, which everyone already knew already. NFTs aren't non-fungible. It's just token, which is non-fungible. I guess the image is not non-fungible. Like the thing that is not non-fungible is not the image. You can have 1,000 NFTs of the exact same image that aren't like part of the same minting. You can have 1,000 people not at all connected just mint an NFT on the exact same image, and it's going to supposedly give you the image because that's how that works. So obviously that allows you to basically take another NFT collection and then just resell it because yes. And is this something that's ever going to be able to be removed? Or able to be stopped? No. No, because the reason why you can't stop it is because there's not going to be any way to stop someone downloading an image that is already on their computer. I've seen some people saying, oh, but when we have true Web3, you won't be able to just right-click and save the image because when it's Web3, like, that just won't be possible. Not really understanding, like, how computers actually function. Because the way it gets shown on your computer is you have to download it. So if it has been downloaded on your computer, there is always going to be a way to extract that image outside of the tool that is being used to actually access it. Unless you're going to say that everything just remains encrypted and somehow managed to do that. But even then, you can screenshot it. And that right there is the biggest killer. I still cannot find a practical reason for NFTs. There are reasons why you might want to use crypto, right? I think you can come up with legitimate reasons why crypto might make sense. NFTs, though, I can't see. Like, every single time someone gives me a reason why NFTs matter, I can explain to them why you can do that with traditional technologies. Like, I saw one, we talked about this on the podcast, someone explaining how you could use NFTs to, like, have a ticket to an arena, and that ticket would be then, like, you could sell that ticket easily, or you could make it so that ticket couldn't be sold, or all of this fun stuff, like things you can already do. Like, you can stop tickets from being sold by just requiring you to be ID'd, and if the ID doesn't line up with what's on the ticket, then the ticket isn't valid. You can like, NFTs in games is another one. Like, oh, you can now sell items in games. Like, you mean a real money auction house? The thing that, like, Diablo 3 had. Like, real money auction houses aren't new. You don't need NFTs. You don't need crypto to sell items in a game. Like, oh, you actually own it. Like, do you, though? Do you actually own it? Because your NFT of a skin in a game only matters while that game exists. When that game is gone, your NFT doesn't matter, because you can't just take a skin from one game and put it in another game. But the NFT game stuff is like the tip of the iceberg for how stupid the NFT market is getting. So someone sent this to me during my my live stream earlier today, and I almost had to stop the live stream because honestly, this is just getting ridiculous. So do we all remember the Stan Lee NFTs? So the Stan Lee NFTs, which were basically, someone took Stan Lee's face and then basically just made shitty NFT art with it, made different versions of it, like, oh, with different versions of the hero and all that fun stuff. Now, this one is just, it's equally as disgusting, to be honest. So, these are Etika NFTs. These are Etika punks. So, someone is so here's what the tweet says for anyone listening. What you'll have been waiting for, Etika NFTs. Commemorate the life of Etika, who sadly ended his own life with these one
with these one-of-a-kind NFTs made by fellow fans of his. This is genuinely disgusting. Like, what you're doing right here is you are trying to profit off... Like, you're trying to profit off of someone's suicide. That's what you're doing. Like, the fact that anybody looks at this and thinks that this is something that is alright to do is genuinely disgusting. So, let's see how much they are selling for. Oh my lord. Okay, so... 1.3 wrapped ETH. So... Creator gets 10% of royalties, collection and rareable, yep, fun stuff. It's on Ethereum. Yeah, there's... You know, it would be different, right? If they made a guarantee that all of the money was going to, like, suicide prevention or something like that. That would be different. It would still be really fucking weird that you're the one doing this and not the family is doing this. Because as it currently stands, what this is, like, it's just gross. Like, it's just genuinely gross. And luckily people on Twitter who saw this are calling us out, being like, no, just stop. Like, just stop. There are some people in here that aren't calling it out for what it is, but, like, things like this are going to get more popular. Are they going to get more prevalent? They're going to get more prevalent, and, like, So, in a weird way, now this is going to sound weird, I want projects like this to get more prevalent. Not because I want disgusting shit like this to actually exist. The reason why I want it to get more prevalent is to show just how fucking ridiculous the NFT market is. Things like this is how you get normies interested in NFTs, and you get normies realizing, like, how ridiculous this is. Normies are already starting to pay attention to the crypto market and are getting burnt by being in shitty meme projects. But stuff like this is how you actually, like, genuinely piss people off. Because I can think of a bunch of other people that exactly this could be done for that would have exactly the same response. People being like, what are you doing? Actually, let's have a look at some of the quote tweets. If there's hell you're going, we dragging you in, not cool, disgusted. The deepest depths of hell aren't enough for guys like you. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever laid my eyes on. It's good to see that most people are calling this out. But, like, the only good thing that comes out of projects like this is just showing off just how bad the crypto market is right now and how bad the idea of the NFT market is as it stands. There may be a future for NFTs, but the present needs to burn. The present needs to burn into the ground so we can build something better from its ashes. Things like this shouldn't be accepted by anyone, shouldn't be created, and honestly I hope that anyone who makes this just basically it's bullied out. Like, this is one of the cases where I think bullying's fine. If you make a project like this, you should be bullied out of the entire crypto space, and no one should have anything to do with you. Like, this is just openly making money off of someone's death, and I can't condone that. Like, it would be it would be different if they one way you could do this is selling them for literally nothing and then hard capping the price. Like, only having it so you're trading around these images. That is different, right? That is completely different. But you know what's going to happen with this. These are going to sell, and these are going to keep going up in price. I don't think it's going to ever be a really big project, because anybody who's seen having one of these is going to get, like, fucking absolutely roasted. But these are going to go up in price. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they're selling for, like, 10 ETH. Like, that wouldn't... Like, that's not even that... Like, that out of the, or outside of the realm of possibilities. But Yeah, I hope that annoyed you as much as it annoyed me. Etiquette NFTs. Yay. Something more fun than that. Gordon Ramsay becoming a Twitch streamer, possibly. So for whatever reason, XQC likes to watch a lot of Gordon Ramsay. Well, Gordon Ramsay's great. I love Gordon Ramsay. And Gordon Ramsay is trying to like find out about Twitch, and XQC replies, "I'll give you a rundown. Call me on my cell. America's next master streamer. Pause champ. You mean next level streamer?" And then, yeah, now people are sort of speculating that Gordon Ramsay is either going to become a Twitch streamer or, you know, do a collab with XQC. Which honestly would be genuinely hilarious. Like, I would actually love if that happens. Like, imagine Gordon Ramsay on Twitch trying to understand firstly Twitch culture, but also Twitch lingo. Like, people in his chat are gonna be like, they're gonna be spamming fucking PogChamp, and he's gonna be like, I have no idea what this means. It would be kind of a funny experience, and I want to be there if that ever actually happens. I don't know if it's just gonna be like it's gonna remain a Twitter thing, but hey, I think it'd be a great way for them both to make a shitload of money. To be completely honest, like, XQC is really big. Gordon Ramsay is very big on Twitch. XQC and Gordon Ramsay, match made in heaven. Maybe giving XQC a cooking lesson. You know, he seems like he's such a great chef, judging by some of the clips I've seen. Oh, and just imagine an unfiltered, like an unscripted, unfiltered Gordon Ramsay. That is what Gordon Ramsay on Twitch would end up being, and I would love that. The last thing we want to talk about, I want to talk about this. So, Pine 64, they make devices like the Pine Note, and through some various patches and fun stuff, you can run mainline Linux on a Pine Note. Normally, you'd have to run like their custom distro that is designed specifically around the Pine Note, but you can run mainline Linux on a Pine Note. So do you know what this means? So Pine Note has an e-paper display. That has a refresh rate of 7.5 hertz. So you, at a terrible, terrible blurry frame rate, could play Doom on a Pine Note. I wouldn't want to do that. So the problem, okay, here's the problem with a e-paper display. It's not 7.5 hertz the same way that an LCD is 7.5 hertz. Like, if you have an LCD at 7.5 hertz, it'd be really shit. But say like 30 hertz or whatever it is. So when an e-paper display changes between frames, I don't know how it works. Don't get me to explain the science behind it, but it basically blurs the frames together. So it wouldn't just be, hey, this is Doom showing 7.5 frames a second. It would be Doom that is a blurry mess. But you know what? If a Pine Note was cheaper, I would buy it and do it. Problem is, they're $400. So, not gonna happen. But if Pine wants to send me a Pine Note, I will happily play some Doom on it. That would be fun. You're gonna have to like go and run some, like, add some custom patches to it. I don't actually know the specific stuff that has been done here, but you will need to go and like apply some custom patches to the kernel, because you know you're not exactly supposed to be using shit like this with desktop Linux. Apparently there's a tricolor e-ink. Wait, what? I didn't know that existed. I thought e-ink was always just going to be grayscale. E-ink, e-ink, 3-color. E-ink display. I don't know if looking up tricolor is going to find it. I'm not finding. Red, black, and white. Okay. So you get red ink as well, or red color, I guess, as well. That's kind of neat. They're pretty cheap apparently as well. They're like $30 for a screen. I don't know if there's any devices actually using them though. That's the difference. E-ink's a cool technology. I do like it. I think if we didn't have e-ink, no one would really care about like e-readers. Like if we were just using LCDs with our like reading-based tablets, I don't think anyone would really care about them. Like e-ink is a really nice technology just because it gives you a more natural, I guess, paper sort of style of reading. It's not like, hey, here's an LCD where there is a light blaring into your eyes the entire time you're looking at it. It's a bit more not that. It's closer to like a Game Boy screen than like an LCD. Obviously, that's a exaggeration, but like in the way that it's not massively backlit and just blows out your eyes when you're trying to read it. But hey, yeah, if I had a Pine Note, if anyone happens to have a Pine Note, go run mainline Linux on it and play Doom on it because that'd be funny, and send me a video because that'd be funny. Yeah. Is that gonna be everything today? I think there's one last thing. Here is a tabletop hand massager. Which, you know what? I feel like I kinda want. Because I got some wrist problems. Also, what is that mouse? I want to say it's not a G502, but it's got a G502 style design, but then it's more Mad Caddy. I don't know what this is. If anyone happens to recognize this specific mouse, I would like to know. So once again, created by a Japanese company, like we saw last week with the device where you can lick a screen and taste stuff. I don't know what that word is. BAUHU with like 2 little dots above it. TTE. I don't know what that word is. The device uses 15 heated air cushions to supposedly stimulate the feeling of a real massage. And, well, why the hell not? Yeah, why the hell not? If this is how you're playing games, I think you do need a massager. Like, I think you genuinely do. Like, what are your fingers doing? Wait, this is actually a great picture. So, we've got a... I didn't look at the rest of this article. So, we've got a leg rest. I don't know what this chair is, but I imagine it's a fairly expensive chair. We've got 2 cans of Monster sitting on an arm. You know what? I kind of like this setup. So basically it's going to have like cushions wrapped around. You know what? I want this. I don't know how it's going to cost. It's actually not that much. That's actually really cheap. That's actually really cheap. What the hell? $150 for that. More than gamers, you really should not play so long that your body starts complaining. You shouldn't, but also just having a hand massage just sounds good anyway. They'll have to say, having some wrist problems, working with a bad mouse this summer. I solved them completely with a roller mouse. A roller mouse. What is a roller mouse? What the fuck is this? What the fuck? How does that work? Wait, do you move this? this like rubber thing and then move it left to right. That's so fucking weird. I think a trackball would be way more comfortable than that. But hey, to each of their own, I guess. Genuinely curious about this. If someone works all day on a computer and climbs sometimes, it seems like a pretty good idea. If it works. This actually isn't a bad idea, but I'm more interested in a version that does the same thing for my feet. I'm pretty sure foot massages exist. I'm pretty sure foot massages already exist. I don't know who this is. Let's see. You can only put hands in this thinking. Don't put anything. Don't. That would hurt. Don't put anything else in there. You know what? If I can, I kind of want to get one. Will I make a video on it? Probably. Will I make a video on it just so I can justify the expense and make it a business expense? Probably. Also, how many people can you say in the Linux space are making videos on hand massages? I'm gonna say 0. Maybe there's one. I don't know everybody, but I'm gonna say 0. And as I said, I have problems with my right wrist, so maybe it's not the maybe it's not even the worst idea. Yeah. So that's gonna be pretty much it for me. Over on the gaming channel, I actually finished playing Bloodborne today. So I guess the day that this goes live, I'm probably gonna be playing. I don't know what I'm gonna play on that spot now. Maybe Spyro 3. I'm thinking Spyro 3, but if not, we'll work it out before then. Also on the Friday, we're now playing Hollow Knight. So we finished off Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories. That's gonna be starting today for my recording. For today for me. Next week we're on part 2. Hollow Knight, from what I hear, is it's Ender Lilies with its backtracking on crack. So I'm gonna have fun with that. But luckily there's a map, so it's fine. And yeah, I've got some ideas for the main channel streams. One thing I want to do is like I guess you call it a spring cleaning stream. So I've got a lot of applications installed on my system that I don't use anymore. Like, genuinely tons of applications that I have no interest in using again. So I should probably get rid of some of them, but I'm lazy. So if I can turn that into content, I think I'm gonna have to do that. Sounds like a good idea. Plus getting rid of config files and stuff, applications I'm not using, all that fun stuff. I'll work out like the exact what's the word? Plan. That's the exact plan before we start it. But I'm thinking of doing that this week. Or maybe I'll do it next week. I don't know. I'll do it at some point, and then at some point as well, we'll get back to doing the LFS stream. LFS streams, because we sort of just left that one off and just because I got bored. I just got bored and didn't really feel like continuing it. But we'll get back to it at some point and have some fun with that. So that's gonna be it for me. Main channel, Brody Robertson. Gaming channel, Brody Robertson Plays. The podcast available in audio version, audio places like Spotify, things like that. The video version on YouTube and Odyssey. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me. I have had this bit of hair sticking up at the back the entire stream, so if it's been bothering the video watchers, good, because it's been bothering me every time I see it as well. That's gonna be it for me, and I'm out.